Welcome to the Connect with Control-M monthly webinar. My name is James Pendergrast, and I've been with BMC for 16 years. On the panel with me today is Florian Reyes and Bat Henrosh joining us from development. Today's webinar will be on job viewpoints, history viewpoints, and job versioning. How many times have you had a request to find a job and check its status, or find out what the status of the job was yesterday? Have you had a request to monitor a specific set of jobs, such as report jobs or jobs that ended not okay? Have you ever needed to find out if a job changed and what changed in the job? This is what we'll be discussing in today's webinar. Let's move on to the agenda. We're going to start by looking at viewpoints. Viewpoints are simply how we look at the jobs in the current active environment, which jobs display and how they display. Then we'll look at history. In previous versions, it was known as Archived Viewpoints. Allows us to look at jobs for previous days. We'll do a demo on that. And then we'll move into job versioning, which allows us to view and compare versions of a job, even if the job has been deleted. We'll do a demo on that. We'll cover some helpful knowledge articles, commonly referred to as KAs, and then we'll go into a quick Q&A session. In the viewpoints, as we said before, it controls which active jobs display. You can customize the viewpoint. You don't have to see all the jobs. You can change the viewpoints to show a subset of jobs, such as jobs that contain specific text in the name, such as report, on the job status, such as all the jobs that ended okay. The viewpoints are created and maintained in the tools domain. In the viewpoint demo, we'll look at how to create several different viewpoints. One for jobs that ended not okay, and one for jobs that have report in the title. After we look at the viewpoints, we'll look at history. History, previously known as Archived Viewpoints, as I said earlier, is previous days' job runs that you can view in the GUI. The number of days is controlled by two parameters, max old day and max old total. Max old day is the total number of days, and max old total is the total number of downloads available. If you want to keep 7 days worth of history, set max old day to 7 and max old total to a higher number such as 10. This way, if the gateway does an additional download or two, you still have your 7 days worth of data. One thing to mention, this is per data center, so if you have 2 data centers in 7 days, there'll be a total of 14 days worth of data. Changing this parameter to a higher number will increase the space the database needs. By default, it's set to 2 days. If you change these parameters, then the gateway will need to be restarted. Job output and job log can also be viewed for previous day's jobs. The retention time for output and log are controlled. The agent controls the output, time that the output's available, and the server controls the amount of time that the log is available. By default, these are set to 2 days. If you increase the number of days for the log, the database space needed on the server will increase. And if you increase the output, the space that the agent takes up will increase. One product that we recently released, Workload Archiving, can help with this. Workload Archiving is a separate server with a separate database space, and it will store the job output and job log and previous versions of the job so that you can use that to look up history and not store all that information in your live production database. The history domain also has an interesting, very useful feature called playback, where you can go to a point in time. We'll look at that in our demonstration. So let's move to our active environment. We're going to start out in the Control-M Workload Automation GUI. We have the All Jobs viewpoint opened up. We're going to talk about something called hierarchy several times throughout the demonstration today. And what I'd like to do is show you what that is and where it comes from. So if we select a job and we look at the job properties, let me move it over just a little bit. The hierarchy is simply tree view or whatever that we use to show the jobs. So where that comes from is the Control-M server, the parent folder, an application and sub-application, and several other fields can be used. This is the one that's done by default. So if you look in the map view, you have the server, the application, sub-application, and job folder. Same thing with the tree view. We can see the server icon, application, sub-application icons, and the job folder. Additionally, we can tell that this is a smart folder because it's got the little three-pointed crown in it. So let's say that the users contacted us and said they need two new viewpoints, one for jobs that end not OK, and a new viewpoint showing jobs that have report in the job name. Let's go to the Tools domain to create these viewpoints. Included with the product are several default viewpoints, and they're listed here. So none of these meet the requirements that we have now, so we'll need to create some new viewpoints. When we look at the first request, we can see that it's for jobs that end not OK, and they only want to see the server name and folder name. So we'll need to change the hierarchy for that. So let's create a new viewpoint. We'll call this one Report 2. And we're going to change the hierarchy because for the reports, they only want to see the server name and folder name. So we'll check out the hierarchies that we have. We don't see one, so let's create a new one. We'll call it Report 2. And this is where we set our hierarchy. So here are the options that you have available, any of the data points for the job. So for this one, we need Control-M, and then we need folder name. So we'll hit the F and go down to folder. And then we'll save that. And then filter. We don't have a filter that will meet our needs, so we'll create a new filter. And the filter that we need, we're going to call it Report 2. And what they're looking for is jobs that have report in the name. So we're going to go to job name. Once again, we'll come down. Job name, and we're going to use the like operator. And since we don't know the specific job name, we're going to do asterisk report, asterisk. And we'll save this. And be sure to go up to this little icon up here and save it. So now we have Report 2. So let's go to the monitoring domain and open up our new report. So we hit the plus sign. Now up on the very top are all the recent reports that we've opened. This is a new report, so we need to come down to the All Viewpoints, and this is all the ones that are available. So we'll do Report 2, and we're going to expand this. So what we see is all of the jobs that are in the active jobs environment that have report in the name. So the second request that we have is for jobs that ended not OK. So let's go back to the Tools Viewpoint domain, and let's create a new viewpoint for jobs that ended not OK. We're going to call this one Not OK 2. We're going to leave the hierarchy the same. And the filter, we're going to create a new filter. And we're going to call it Not OK 2. And in this filter, we're going to filter by job status. So we'll hit J, go down, grab job status, and we're going to do equal to, and in this drop down, we get the job statuses that are available. We'll pick not OK, hit OK, save this, and then we can see that the filter's down here. We'll save this report, and then let's go back to the monitoring domain and open this new viewpoint that we have. So we go here, open. We haven't opened it yet, so we need to go to All Viewpoints and do Not OK 2. We'll expand it, and these are all the jobs that currently are not OK. Now this viewpoint will change based on if more jobs come in, it'll remain current. So I'm going to close these two viewpoints to do some of the clutter on the screen, and we're going to move back to the All Jobs viewpoint. Now, one thing to note before we leave discussion on creating viewpoints, the jobs that are available to view in the viewpoints are based on user permissions that you set up for the users and the EM user permissions. It is possible to create a report that you can't see any information in. Just because you create a viewpoint, it does not override the EM user permissions. So I'd like to now take a couple minutes to go over the items in the menu bar up here. You've seen me use the expand all. When you first open a viewpoint, you get one small icon, and you need to expand it if you want to look at the jobs that are in there. The rearrange is very useful as you run through the day. The viewpoint is created, and then jobs are added and deleted from it. And the in and out conditions are what control the view and how it does. As you go through the day, you may have jobs that come in and out, and you get lines all over the place. You can simply hit rearrange, and it will do a better estimate of what's your best viewpoint. Hierarchy by default, this one has server, application, sub-application, and then jobs. You can change the hierarchy on the fly. That's what it is currently. So if we wanted to look at them by smart folder, we can just simply go to hierarchy, and here's our jobs as they relate to the smart folders. Very easy to do, fairly quick. So we'll change it back to the Control-M. What we see now is what we call the map view. Each job has an icon. You can see the relationships between the jobs. You can see where the jobs fit into the overall scheme of things. If you go to the list view, then it looks more like an Excel spreadsheet type format. You can still select the job, see the job information, but it's in more of a line-by-line format. So it's whatever preference you have, whatever meets the needs that you have. So when people call you up and say, how is the job running today? You have a couple of options. You can go down to the small map on the lower left-hand side, and you can use the cursor to drag the jobs around and try to find the job. If you only have a few jobs, maybe a viable option. If you have thousands of jobs, it may take you a while to find that information. What you can do is go up to the find, and then we've got a request to look at job AR batch 1234. So we can put AR-batch 12 in here. We don't have to complete it. It does do pattern matching. And when we search, in the bottom, we get all the jobs that match. So we're looking for 1234. When we select it down here, it highlights the job up here. Now one thing that's very useful is we can see that there's some conditions in addition to the job just above it, but we can't see what jobs actually have conditions. You can right-click on the job, do Neighbors, Neighborhood, and go up to the top bar up here. We're going to leave the radius set at 3. What radius is how far up, how many jobs up, levels to go for the next viewpoint. We'll open this viewpoint, and what it'll do is change the viewpoint to only have this job and predecessors and successors for this job. Close this viewpoint, go back to our all viewpoint. In addition to being able to search on the left map and doing the find, another interesting feature that can change your display is in the bottom right. You can drag the slider bar and you can change the size of your icons. If you need to zoom in or zoom out, that's a very good way to do it. So let's say the users contacted us and said, we need to check on how the job ran yesterday. You can't do that in the active environment, but we can go to the history environment. So let's go there, and we can open up yesterday's set of jobs. So by default, yesterday is here. We can also do all days. Earlier I was talking about max old day and max old total. I have max old total set to 7 on this machine, and max old day set to 2. You can see that on the 19th, we had several downloads that occurred during the day. Several downloads were forced. For each one of these, they're in alphabetical order, net A through net F. Net A is cycled off already. You can see the time and the start time and the start date. Typically, these will be new day time. So let's open up the one from yesterday. We'll expand it to see all the jobs that ran. You can use any of the options up here. You can change the hierarchy, do any of that information, do find. So we're going to look at AP batch 2345. If you select the job, you can look at the log output based on retention on the server and the agent. By default, it's 2. This was yesterday, so we're still good with that. So we'll close that down. We can also pull up the sys out for that job. All right, so we'll close that down now that we've looked at the sys out. Let's go look at the playback. That's under the playback tab on the very top. By default, this is set to 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on my system. That's new day time to new day time. For the nets that don't end on new day, the times will be different. So you can either drag the slider and drag it back in time, and that'll change the job statuses, or you could go in and put the actual time in here. You can step through the day. Currently it's set to do it by event. You can do it by time. So now that we're at 7 o'clock in the morning, let's hit the play button, and you can see that some of the jobs are actually changing status, starting to run, and then we'll stop it. What this allows you to do is to go to any point in time yesterday, and you can see what all jobs were running at that time, just before that time, just after that time. Very useful feature if you're trying to figure out what happened and something that happened at a specific point in the time. So let's go look in the Control-M Configuration Manager real quick. And we're going to go look in the Tools System Configuration EM System Parameters. And we'll look to see where those parameters are set, max old day and max old total. We'll search for max old. And here's the max old day and max old total for our test system today. Maximum number of days is set to 5, and maximum number old total is set to 7. If you change this, it says manual, so that means you'll have to restart the gateway process, which is listed over here, to make those active in the active environment. So let's go back to our PowerPoint. So job versioning. What is job versioning? Job versioning displays changes between job versions. You're able to restore a previous version of a job, look at the previous version of a job, and restore a deleted job. The number of job versions is controlled by the VM versions number to keep parameter. One thing to mention when you're looking at job versioning, you can see the job owner, you can see when the job was changed, and you can see the changes that were made. What you can't see is the user that made the changes. If you need to see the user that made the changes, then you need to run the reporting facility and run the audit report to go see that. And audit and annotation needs to be enabled. So let's move to our job versioning demo, share my environment back out. So all of the job versioning information is done in the planning domain. Let's say the users contacted us and they have a request to see what changed in the job check report in the folder process reports. So the first thing that we need to do is go load up the folder process reports. So as y'all are all aware, in version 8, you can check in and out from here. Since we're just looking at this, you might think that you don't want to check it out. I would suggest checking it out. All right, so as we do this, we've got this one checked out. So we can now see the job. If we go to the Analysis tab and do Show All Versions, these are all the current versions of this job. I've got it set to 5, so we have 5 versions. Since it's checked out, we can actually do some functionality on this job. So we're going to select 2, 8, and 9, and that'll highlight the Compare option. That allows us to pull up the job information. Here's version 8 and here's version 9. This shows all the job information for each job. A very handy feature in the upper left is Show Only Changes. If you check that, you can see the differences in the job. So in this instance, we change the command line from one to another. So let's close this down. So version 9 is the current version. If we want to restore version 8, we simply select version 8. If you want to check to see what's in there, do the Edit and Restore, and that'll bring up the job details. You can restore it from here. We're successfully restored. We can close that, and you can see now that the icon has changed. If you don't have the folder checked out, then you can't do the restore because the folder's not checked out and you don't have permission to do that. All right, our users call us up and say that in the folder monthly reports, week 2 job doesn't seem to be there anymore. So the way to find that out is we go to the Tools domain, and we'll load up the Monthly Reports folder and see what we find in there. Folders, Monthly Reports, and what we discover is the job week 2 is not in here. So how do we find a job that doesn't exist? Let's close this workspace because may have some conflicts with having that record locked. If we go to Tools, go to Versions, then we can search for versions of jobs. So we know what our Control-M is. Hit OK. We know what folder it's in. It's in Monthly Reports folder. And then we can put in as much information as you know. There's an advanced filter if you know some additional information. So let's do Apply. And you can see that here's our week 2 job, and currently it's deleted. So we can select that job, do a restore, and we'll get a new folder, new workspace opened up. Close this down. And here's our new workspace. Check it in. Check in workspace. And now we're done. That job is restored. We can now order the job if we need to, do anything to that job that we need to. Versions to keep, as we discussed, is in the Configuration Manager. So if we go to Configuration Manager, Tools, System Configuration, EM System Parameters, Advanced tab, and we'll search for VM versions. Currently it's set to 5. If you change this, it's a manual thing. You'll need to restart the GUI server to make this change effective. All right, so let's go back to our slides. KAs that we'd like to make you aware of. We do have a KA written to cover how to change the number of archive viewpoints. Good bit of detail in there about how to do that. If you create a lot of viewpoints in the history domain, you can actually exceed the default quota that's there. So we have a article detailing how to change the parameters that you need. If you're creating a lot of history viewpoints and you get messages such as quota of jobs in EM server has been exceeded. We also have a KA on retrieving a deleted job with detailed steps in there. Thank you for attending today's webinar. There's a survey. We'll be sending you a survey link shortly. Please ask that you fill that out. Let us know how we did, and just as importantly, let us know what topics you would like for us to attend in the future. Please follow us on Facebook and Twitter. You can view past recordings on BMC Communities, YouTube, and iTunes. The next upcoming webinar in August is going to be managing job log and output with workload archiving, which I mentioned earlier. Help manage the sysout and the job logs. We have a BMC Communities page, communities.bmc.com. We always suggest that you join here. You can join in technical discussions, network with other users, ask questions, search content, and view past webinars.